Hello friends and welcome to Figure Study, where we are looking at Mastermind Creations Commodus. I got Commodus. I am happy. So excited. I've been wanting Commodus for a fair bit. I believe I actually mentioned it in the Spartan video, how I really wanted Commodus, but Commodus is impossible to get a hold of, and so I kind of made do with Spartan. And well, I clearly no longer have to make do. That said, I want to front load this video by saying I am not going to be getting rid of Spartan, for more than one reason. Obviously, I could never get rid of Duck Tank, but I'll get into it later. But yes, finally have Commodus, and Commodus is awesome. This one I did get used off of eBay, so there was a little bit of stuff I had to do to kind of make it a little more presentable. Primarily, the peg for the cannon gun thing was super loose, so I tightened it up with some floor polish. The floor polish actually made it looser at first, but after about 24 hours or so, it thickened up and was a lot better. So there's that. And then the thighs in robot mode, which I'll explain more when I get there, were also like weirdly tight. Like the forward and backward motion is a little bit loose, and I still need to try and go in there and properly thicken it up so it'll, hold a pose a little bit better, but it's still okay. But like the outward movement and the turning is super tight. And I managed to take care of the outward motion a bit, but the turning is still really tight, so it's a little bit concerning, but I'm working my way through it. Incidentally, if any of you have any idea how to loosen up thigh swivels on this mold, please let me know. But anyway, we'll talk about that more in robot mode. As I was saying, Commodus, the tank mode. I love this tank mode. This is pretty much night and day compared to Spartan, except the day in this analogy is the night color. You know what I mean. This is what I've been wanting. This is a proper squishy little metal slug tank. I love, and I said this with Spartan too, I think the bottom section is great. The kind of segmented treads that almost look like little scoops. The little detailing, the little like the wide platform base, the scoop in the front, like a cowcatcher looking thing or whatever, the plow, the venting, it all looks great. And then with Spartan, the top, that's, we all know where that went at this point. But this is great. I will say, there's not a whole lot of detail going on around here, which is a shame because Spartan actually does have more detail up in this section. But I think not having as much detail works in Commodus's favor because instead of focusing around here, it draws your eye to that barrel, and that barrel is fantastic. That is a metal slug barrel. I love that. It's just a super snub-nosed but like very wide cannon, and it looks great. And there's just a little bit of blue coloring, blue highlighting to make it stand out just a little bit, and those highlights pop so nicely. It does make me wish that these blue highlights were used elsewhere in the tank mode, like possibly a little bit along here or something, I don't know, but instead you've got the very, very plain, sort of very dark charcoal, almost black for everything except like a little bit of silver here, a little bit of silver there, and then the blue highlights there. And then this is going to be the robot chest, so I'm going to kind of ignore that. I do like Commodus very much, but I think color-wise the tank does suffer a bit, just in the sense that it's primarily this charcoal black color with just, little bits of silver, little bits of blue, some black on the charcoal, which actually that does kind of help you see how this isn't quite black. And then the treads and the wheels inside the tread that are also painted black. So it's like not a whole lot of color variation on this guy. It doesn't really bother me though, because the color that they went with for Commodus, that again kind of charcoaly, almost black color, even though it's dark, it's still got a nice sheen to it. So when it's in the light, like unless it's tucked in shadows somewhere, the light actually plays off of the various contours and details pretty nicely. So while there's not a whole lot going on color-wise, it still allows you to make out the details, and I really like that. And yeah, this is the tank mode that I wish Spartan had. I understand why Spartan doesn't have a tank mode like this, but I still kind of wish that the tank mode is a little bit more like this. And I know, like, from here down, it's practically, with some minor, very minor molding differences, it's practically the same thing. But this entire look, the way all of these elements work together, works so much better for me than Spartan's vehicle mode. Speaking of, I suppose we should blast through, no pun intended, the size comparisons so that we can get to that Spartan and Commodus side by side. So, there's Commodus with a Siege Deluxe, and just like Spartan, is, same size. Definitely bigger than a Deluxe. And here's Commodus with Spartan. And, yeah. I mean, yeah. It's one of those things where Spartan kind of became his own little inside joke, and I liked him for that. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like this figure, but like, because he became such an inside joke, I've kind of gotten used to this tank mode, and it doesn't bother me as much, but I'm still not a huge fan of it. That's just not going to change. It really isn't. And here you can kind of see that the major differences are basically just like the gun barrels sticking out of the front there that aren't there, and the design up here, obviously, and the barrel. But like, molding wise, in tank mode, there's barely any difference except for that turret. I'm sorry, but this looks way better than this. I will say, I appreciate the fact that Spartan has way more color going on. And also, I did add repro labels, which you probably noticed in the past dozens of videos. And, the color additions with the stickers definitely also help. I'm going to need to look up to see if Toy Hacks has repro labels for Commodus. I don't think they do. Maybe they do. I don't know. But I feel like he could definitely do with just a little bit more for his tank mode. But anyway, I still don't really care for that tank mode. I think it's funny. I enjoy using him as a gag in all my other videos. But this one is so much better visually than that one. Oh, and also, if you follow me on Twitter or Instagram, you might have seen it, but I like to call them Dark Tank and Duck Tank. Alright, so with all that nitpicking and griping out of the way, let us get Commodus into his robot mode. And the transformation is almost exactly the same as Spartan's, with the minor differences of the cannon not plugging into the shoulder and there not being any cannons down there to push in. Anyway, let's do it. And there we have Commodus in robot mode, and that is an awesome looking robot mode. I really, really like this. This is cool. Again, as with Spartan, there's not a lot that's different in terms of molding. The shoulders, the chest, not the midsection though. This whole section is the same molding wise, but like the shoulders, the chest, the head, the knees, weirdly, just the design of the knees and the toes are all different, and obviously the cannon there and the head. But other than that, it's the same mold, just a different color. But this works really well. I actually took the time, me of all people, took the time to look up scans of the IDW comics to see what Turmoil looks like. And like, yeah, the alt mode's a little different, bot mode's a little different, but this is pretty darn close. Basically, if you just took this and made him wider, that would pretty much be a dead ringer for Turmoil. And again, not a whole lot in terms of coloration here. There is a little bit more, though. The vent there is very reminiscent of the vent that was on the front of the tank, which you can kind of see there, which is on his back now. It's not quite the same, though. Obviously, the shape's different, but it kind of calls that to mind. You've got a little bit of silver on the shoulders, which that is revealed in robot mode. In tank mode, it's actually tucked away underneath the treads. And then this whole bit, that was, the back of the tank. But I like this. I like how that light blue from the cannon gets carried into the shoulders and the chest. And I like the little bits of silver that are added. I do still feel like he could benefit from a little bit more going on color-wise in, like, say, the legs, the midsection around there, like, just to break it up a little bit more. But even so, yes, he's got a very, very limited color palette, and he's still kind of that really slatish gray, almost black. But again, as long as he's not in shadow, it picks up light really well and does show off a lot of really nice details. In fact, I'm actually noticing now that there are some details on him that are painted that I didn't realize were painted before. So starting from the bottom, he's got the large boots with the tank treads in the calves, which I still love that design, and I love the way that this kind of conforms around it. It's just a neat look. So lots of nice detailing in there. There you can see he's got the spiky knees with these weird little X's over them for some reason. Riveted thighs. The waist section is kind of nondescript, but there is some detailing there. Now, this was harder for me to see until catching it just right in the light, but in his midriff here, these little diagonal strips are actually painted black. So it adds just a little bit extra color differential there. And there's also a little bit of silver around his ribs there. It's hard to notice sometimes, but I do appreciate that it's there. And when it catches the light right, it does help to break things up a little bit. So, I mean, even with that, I feel like maybe if they just did some black around here to kind of mix things up when the light catches it right, that would be enough. And there's the arms, and he's got the blades on his elbows there, as you do. I like this whole everything going on here. The shoulders are nice. I like the fact that they're movable, so you can kind of decide if you want them up or more in. I believe more in is the way that they're supposed to be. I think this is more accurate. But I like that variability is in there. And again, I like that light blue on the very dark, almost black. It stands out really nicely. And he's also got these big collar things with the, I don't know if those are lights or guns or what, but Spartan doesn't have those. The only reason I mention that is because when transforming him to turn his head around, you can't really easily turn his head because it bumps into these collar pieces. So you either have to tilt it way back and kind of force it past a little bit, or you could do what I do and just like pull the chest down, pop it out, and then rotate it when there's nothing obstructing it. And then again, there's the gun. And I'm doing the gun as hand thing. I just think that looks cool. And yeah, that peg, that thing was so loose that the gun would just flop down every time I tried to put it in there. But thankfully, again, with the floor polish trick, it's holding up. As for the head, I don't know if there's too much to it. It's a very, very monochrome head, just like the rest of his body mostly. It's that kind of dark, charcoaly, almost black color. It's got a vaguely Megatron shape to his helmet, but it's got that mouth plate, which kind of adds a bit of mystery to him. And I have to say, the red doesn't necessarily stand out super hard from the charcoal under most lighting conditions, but if you get the light to hit it, those eyes glow and they stand out really nicely from that head. And that looks cool. That looks really, really cool. He looks so cool. I really, really like this robot mode. I like the tank mode a lot too, as I've said. He's just a really great all-around figure. Bringing in a Siege Deluxe, you can see that Commodus, or Turmoil, whatever you want to call him, is a pretty darn good size. But this is the comparison everyone wants to see, right? So let me bring these two in a bit closer. So there we have Commodus and Spartan, or Turmoil and Impactor, or Dark Tank and Duck Tank. I'm just kidding. I'm actually gonna keep doing them. Just running with the gag. Just running with the gag. But yeah, they are so different. But at the same time, they're the same. I really appreciate what Mastermind Creations did here and how you've got two figures that are practically the exact same mold, but they look so different. So interestingly different. And here, if we're looking at just the details, you can see how the toes are different, the kneecaps are different. The midsections are the same, but then the chests and shoulders and heads are all different. Of course, Spartan has the harpoon hand and the cannon goes up on his shoulder, and Commodus has the blaster hand. And now this is what I wanted to say with the whole, getting to robot mode thing, to talk more about Spartan, because I still really like Spartan's robot mode. I feel like I said that in the video, but I want to reiterate this because I know Duck Tank, haha, kind of running gag, but really, Spartan's robot mode is fantastic. And the repro labels that were added to him enhance things that much more. So yeah, Spartan looks really good. And I've had him in Duck Tank mode for so long because, he's one of my go-to size comparisons that I kind of forgot that. I have not turned him into a robot. I've not seen him in his robot mode in months. And it wasn't until I got Commodus that I transformed him back to do a comparison, and he still holds up. He is a really, really good-looking robot. I still don't like his tank mode. I will take that to my freaking grave, but his robot mode looks fantastic. But then, of course, at the same time, his robot mode also looks fantastic for completely different reasons. And I love that they can be so different and so awesome in completely different ways. And you know what? Just for the heck of it, here we can see Commodus with all of the other MMC figures that I currently own. And that is such a great looking set right there. I really like that. And the only thing keeping me from tracking down a bunch more MMC figures is, one, money, obviously, but also the fact that some of them are a little bit hard to find. Specifically, I really want to get my hands on Titanica, especially after seeing how well they handled the remolding for Commodus and Spartan, because Dicamus over there he is. Dicamus is fantastic. I love Dicamus, and I feel like a remold and repaint of Dicamus would just be fantastic as well, so maybe someday I'll find her. Anyway, I think that is enough size comparisons, so let's get Commodus front and center here again. And yeah, as I said, I love this. I love the mold. I'm not sure what other characters they could make out of this, but I'd be down if they did. Again, though, the only issue that I have with this guy, the way he's constructed, is those thigh swivels. They're just really tight, and you might even be able to tell through the sped up animation just how much I was struggling to get those things turned around. And I don't know what I can do to loosen it, because when I get these out of the way here, with the outer movement, I went back and loosened up the screws back there a little bit, and that did the trick. But I don't know what to do for the thigh swivels. The front and back, this is a little bit, yeah. It's still okay for standing and stuff, so I'm not that broken up about it, but it would be nice to fix. But really, I tried tightening the screws there and there to see if that would tighten this up, but it didn't. But I don't know what to do for the thigh swivels, because I can't find any... I don't see any screws that I can unscrew. I don't know what I can do to loosen up those thigh swivels. I just don't. So if any of you have any ideas, please feel free to let me know, because I would really like to not panic and feel like there's a chance I'm going to break this thing when I rotate the thighs. So that's a little bit not cool. But anyway, I think that's going to do it for Commodus. Oh, actually, just because I'm going to pull that out. And if need be, you could totally give him Spartan's harpoon, and he actually has the these bits. He has 2 of these, the little cuffs that can kind of keep things from wiggling around. So you could do that if you wanted to give him the harpoon or the drill hand, or if you really wanted to, you could plug in Spartan's duckbill cannon thing. Oh boy. But anyway, that is going to do it for Mastermind Creations Commodus, or IDW Turmoil, however you want to look at him. As I said, fantastic figure all the way around. And to reiterate again, I do think Spartan's robot mode looks fantastic. I'm just not super into the tank mode. Commodus, I'm into both. But what do you all think of Commodus? For any of you out there who've been able to get a hold of him, do you think he surpasses Spartan? Do you think Spartan's the better of the two? Are you just not fond of the mold? If you have or were to do any detailing on this guy, what would you do to kind of spruce him up a little bit? Because I feel like, again, just like a little bit of extra detail here and there could make a huge difference. And by all means, please, if you have any idea how to loosen up those thigh swivels, please let me know. Whatever your thoughts and or advice, please feel free to comment below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. And while you're at it, also feel free to like, subscribe, or if you're feeling generous, you can buy me a coffee. There will be a link in the description as well. Any of those things would make me a happy Rob. And remember, art is more than meets the eye.